Rob, what's the story?
How's it going, Gav?
So Glastonbury's on this weekend. You had the pleasure of catching some of the acts live who went across the sea then and were playing last night then live on telly. Um, I was asking you earlier about the difference of seeing these bands, live in person and watching on telly. What would your experience be? What would your take be on it? Obviously, it's night and day, but
Ah, yeah, it's a different experience. Like I went to see Neil Young on Thursday night in Malahide Castle in Dublin. Got tickets lastminute.com, went up with my brother-in-law, and yeah, great show. Now it absolutely pissed rain, so it's always a dampener, excuse the pun, when that happens, and it's kind of a different vibe. But it was a great show. Van Morrison supported him, and he was fine. Like he had a few hits and he had a professional kind of jazz band backing him up, so they were great musicians. But it was a bit like a lounge kind of jazz act. It wasn't very rock and roll. But then Neil Young came out, yeah, screaming electric guitars, and he had a backing band that are in their 30s or 40s, and they really know how to rock, and just running through all them classic Neil Young songs. It was brilliant to see him, absolutely brilliant. I managed to get around the side of the pit, actually chanced my arm getting into the pit, but the security guards were on the ball. I went in with this, and I had another little wristband, and it was the wrong color. So I was pretending I was holding a drink and tried to get past them. But I,
I actually seen people got into was it Neil Young? I don't know. It was during the week in Dublin, and they had Deep River Rock. The blue was it blue and white?
so for Neil Young, I think it was a kind of a purpley color.
Okay, it was
The band.
one of the shows showing like somebody got like a water bottle label and folded it up, and they got in with it. Frowned
Yeah,
upon, of course, and totally illegal. So we do not.
yeah, geez, we wouldn't condone that stuff at all. But I tell you what, it was actually great crack looking at people. So I tried to get into the pit. I failed, and when I turned around and had to the walk of shame back, when he caught me, there was a load of people around. They were all like, "Oh, you were so close." So I was having the crack with them outside the pit, and then this other guy walked in when there was a bunch of people going in really confidently, and he was almost in. And the next thing, they tipped him on the shoulder and said, "Let me see your wrist." So they were looking at his wrist for a little bit, and eventually pulled off what looked to be, like one of the armbands. But your man came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, you were nearly there. What happened?" He was like, "I ripped off a bit of the poncho, and I tied it around my arm, my wrist, because it's the same color as the band." So this was
Yeah.
the crack for the gig. But the great thing about standing there side stage is like there was speakers straight in front of us, so you could hear all the music brilliantly, and then there was a nice big screen there as well that you could see everything that was happening. And then if you wanted to like look across, Neil Young was like the band and Neil Young were like 50 yards away from me, so you could look across. You had a kind of a side view.
Yeah.
But yeah, being there is amazing. Like obviously, if the weather's not good, as it happens a lot in Ireland, it's not great. Like you kind of need to zone in on the music, but it is great being there, experiencing live music with people that love that music. Everyone's singing together, everyone's friends for that 2 hours while the artist is on stage. When you watch it on TV, totally different experience. Obviously,
Yeah.
you've got the comfort of your own home. Like I was saying to you last night, I've set up my music room. You see, I've got a couch here, so I've moved the couch in and I've set up the big TV and the speakers there. So I'm ready for next weekend for Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, I just wanted to make the experience as good. So I'm kind of trial running it with Glastonbury this weekend
Yeah.
to see what it's like watching the music at home, and like the comforts, like you don't have to travel, you don't have to park, you don't have to walk into the gig,
Yes.
all that messing around. You don't have to eat the crap food, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have all those comforts when you're watching at home, but it's just not the same as being there. Like,
No, it's definitely not like as we touched on earlier this morning, we were saying like it's all well and good. Well, for me anyway, I was sitting watching most of Neil Young's set last night, and I caught a bit of Biffy Clyro and someone else. You know, when you get into your late 30s or 40s, and you don't have to trip across fields and all that, but still, no matter what, the comforts and good food or whatever, nothing beats being there. It really doesn't. So, you know. But looking back on some of the performers then at Glastonbury, I know touching on a few, John Fogerty, we seen Weezer. Who else did we see? Kneecap had a very interesting set. A lot of controversy over that. I personally seen them last year in a very small venue as well. I thought they were amazing, and I think they're using their platform very wisely, especially in such a worldwide known festival that is Glastonbury.
Yeah, they're not, they're not corporate by any manner of means, They're not following the rules. And I was saying to you last night, they're kind of like a mix between Bob Dylan and Rage Against the Machine in terms of fighting the system and, sort of challenging people's perception of certain events that's going on in the world and what the media is putting out there. Like obviously in the Irish media, I think we're very good in in this part of the world at being unbiased in terms of, our journalists are excellent and they always give a neutral account of things and an honest account of things. But I think as you move over to the UK and certainly in America, it's just not the way. The media they're kind of they're beholden to certain lobbying groups and stuff like that, and you
Yeah.
mightn't always get the truth out. So fair play to Kneecap. Guys from the north. They're proud Irish
Yeah.
people, and they're over there. And like I saw a couple of clips of their performance yesterday afternoon, and like I suppose from a music standpoint, it looked amazing because there was like mosh pits and the lead singer was out in the middle of the crowd and people were on a high, like, it was just a great musical experience. Wouldn't be my type of music personally, but I have to appreciate, the connection that they have with the fans and everyone having a good time.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. It definitely wouldn't be my kind of thing either. But we went to that music festival last year in Mad Cool in Madrid. And just before we jumped in the taxi, I kind of looked at the lineup. I'm like, Kneecap are playing. I'm like, no, we have to go. Like, we have to go. Like, doing the small stages. And like you said, like it was intense. It was proper mosh pits and you know, circle pits and people having fun, but civilized fun, and crowd surfing and everything. And I actually nearly got my head taken off by DJ Brophy, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, apart from their using their platform, I don't like to talk about politics too much on the music end of things, but um, they're using the platform very wisely, I think, and it's a credit to them. But some other standout shows. What else tickled your fancy in Glastonbury? What are you looking forward to checking out maybe tonight?
Yeah. So who is on tonight now? So on the Sunday, right? So the Libertines are back together. They're playing a set this afternoon.
Yeah,
And we've also got the Golden Oldie set on the Sunday is Rod Stewart. So
yeah.
I might catch a bit of him. But again, we talked about Van Morrison being a lounge act. I think Rod Stewart at this stage is very much a lounge act.
I
Nile
th
Rodgers and Cheek are on as well. They're always good fun, a bit of funk.
yeah,
Nile Rodgers is an absolute legend. And then there's pop acts to close it out. No, Noah Kahan and Olivia Rodrigo wouldn't really be my cup of tea. If you're looking for something a bit more edgy on the other stage, my favorite modern band at the minute, Turnstile, they're on at 4:30, and I'm really looking forward to their set. The last time they played Glastonbury, I think it was 2022, and they were in one of the tents, and they absolutely blew the roof off the place. But they released their new album about 3 weeks ago, and I'm digging it, and I think they're going to be amazing. I think this is going to be a turning point for the band, and I think a lot of people are going to get turned on to them from this gig today.
yeah. I
Snow
have to
Patrol. Sorry,
have
sorry,
to
go on.
yeah, I have to hold my hands up. When you initially sent me over that album, um, I give it the once over, and I kind of was like, it's very poppy, and I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting more kind of hardcore punk, and this latest album has a lot more theatrics and synths and almost a concept album. It kind of has a flow to it. And the more and more I've listened to it, I have to hold my hands up. I was wrong. It is a good album. Yes, it is. There is pop in it. There is, you know, they've moved, but every band does move. You have to progress and you have to move with the times and tip your toes into that mainstream flow of things because that's just the progression of a band. But overall, this is definitely not a one listen album. It's a grower. Um, I think that and I think I've heard you say it too, that the synths and the kind of weird stuff that I thought when I first listened to it has a purpose in the album. And something came across my head, right? and I'd like to hear your take on it, right? Turnstile on this album is Foo Fighters, Sleep Token, and MGMT all mixed together. And this band came out and they're fucking good.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I
I
love the way people have like people can listen to an album and they can just like take a different point of view or perceive it differently. Because for me, that I think what you're saying there, yeah, absolutely. Who did you say? Foo Fighters, Sleep Token, and
you remember MGMT?
MGMT, the electronic
Yeah.
pop band from the 2000s. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
from Brooklyn. I caught them back in the day in '08, and I seen them in a big festival, a small tent. And
yeah.
that, what was the name of the album? It was a funny name. Somebody will tell me.
Something spectacular,
Yeah.
oracular,
Oh,
spectacular.
yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Great album. Yeah,
Time to Pretend and all them songs. That's sick.
kids.
But I hear Foo Fighters drumming, right?
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
and
Daniel Fang is a monster on the drum kit.
yeah, but I hear that feel of the drums from Foo Fighters albums, early Foo
Yeah,
Fighters. I hear like Everlong kind of drumming in it, and obviously they have their own twist. It's not copy, but what reminds me of it's like splash of this, splash of Sleep Token, and that, and they're
yeah.
they're really good. But if anybody's going to check out that album, and you're open to new music, and you're not like me, first time I'm like no, no, no. It takes time. I've listened to it now probably 10 times. And
Oh wow,
now I
cool.
now I get it.
Yeah.
So yes, they have gone from hardcore punk to this. Now there's touches of it. There's elements of the hardcore in one or two songs.
Oh yeah, they're still a hardcore punk band. There's no getting away from that. I think there's tracks in there that are hardcore punk.
There
This
is.
is probably this is probably their most mainstream album. The previous album, Glow On, one of
Yeah.
my favorite albums of the millennium or century. It's definitely one of the best albums since the year 2000, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that particular album, Glow On, I think it was released in 2021. It was nominated for a couple of Grammys, but
Mm.
that one is more hardcore punk,
Yeah.
less of the synth pop. So they were dipping their toe in that particular album. And
Yeah.
then the latest album, Never Enough, they've gone headfirst into the synth pop. So it's kind of half and half.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say
Um,
that this album is hardcore punk. There's just one or two, but that's the progression of a band. So I'm
yeah,
digging it. I'm driving and I'm throwing it on, I have it on my playlist and I'm like, okay, this one, oh yeah. And I remember I hated this one. Now I like it, so fair play
yeah.
to you. I'll give you your dues. I
Thanks.
threw my nose at it and I was like, no, I'm gonna give it another go. I'm gonna give it a go. And it's definitely a grower. So
Yeah,
make sure.
I think it's interesting. You said who they like. They sound like they're taking a little splash from here and there. Like what I heard personally was like Rage Against the Machine mixed in with Black Sabbath, mixed in with the Police. That was kind of what I was
Right.
getting from them. But there you go. Like you're a big music fan. I'm a big music fan, and we perceive these two albums with influences coming from different directions. But I think the key is here. It's their own. Like I don't think there's
Oh,
anyone in the world sounds like Turnstile. They have their own sound, their own thing, their own
100%.
vibe, and that's what I love about these new artists. And that's why I think they're so great. Like they sound a bit like this band here and a bit like that band there,
Every band
but
does.
overall they are their own thing. It's unmistakable when you hear Turnstile. So they're on the other stage. I'm looking forward to seeing them. And then Snow Patrol are there as well, following Turnstile. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes down because that's a completely different vibe. And
Yeah.
then the Prodigy actually headline the other stage tonight. So that's a good shout there. I'll just see what else is on here. Yeah, there's another stage there, the West Holt stage. I see who was on there for Sunday. So a band called the Brian Johnstown Massacre.
Yeah.
They're quite popular festival band. Saint Vincent are playing on Sunday as well on the Woodsea stage, and then we're down to all the smaller stages there. But yeah, no, I've been really enjoying Glastonbury so far. As I was saying to you, like very refreshing to see so many bands with real drums and loud guitars and attitude.
Yeah.
Whether that be Weezer, right? Okay, they were like their lead singer is a little bit kind of dour, even though their music is very happy. But it was good to see them yesterday. Who else? Franz Ferdinand, a band from my youth. When we were in college, they were a massive band, and they
Oh,
can certainly rock like when they want to. I know they sort of go into the 80s vibe as well with the kind of synthy stuff, but
mm,
also a good rock band. Alanis Morissette,
mm.
Biffy Clyro, who you said you really
Yeah,
enjoyed.
yeah, I enjoyed it. I caught some of Alanis Morissette's. Is she playing Dublin tonight? I think she is
It's
from.
tonight, Malahide Castle. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought she was good. Kind of
yeah,
sing along, if you had a few beers in, everybody knows that album. I think it was in every household in Ireland. Um,
yeah.
there was definitely an element of maybe some of the bands from like our days going to Oxygen in Ireland,
That's right.
you
That's right.
know, when they were in their prime and it's almost 20 years later, well, very close to it. Um, but,
Yeah,
but I guess you have to touch on every age group because there's so many stages there. Just
for sure.
when I was looking through the stages, I see that that Irish band from Northern Ireland, D Mantrana, from
Matrona. Yeah,
Rona,
the
sorry,
girls.
yeah, the two girls, very good.
Brilliant. Brilliant band.
One artist who played yesterday in one of the smaller stages, Stephen Wilson Jr., who I,
Yes.
I caught in Ireland last weekend.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing what feedback he gets from his shows because he's been absolutely killing it. He's been playing in 2000, 1,500 to 2,000 capacity venues all across Europe, and I believe like 90% of them have sold out. Now I know that's not a huge venue, but like he is on a progression of, for me,
Yeah, yeah.
he's going to go, especially the way, and I wouldn't say he's definitely not mainstream country. Like he's a mix.
No.
He's like grunge, grunge meet. It's like Seattle meets Nashville.
Yeah, yeah. He's got that. He's from the south, isn't he?
He's from Indiana, but
Oh, right.
he grew up on grunge. He grew up on Cornell, Nirvana, Pearl Jam,
Yeah.
and he's put his own twist on it. I was lucky enough to go with a good school friend of mine who I grew up with, who would be a big rocker like myself, Metallica and Slipknot and all that, but he appreciates guitar music. And he sent me a video of Stephen Wilson Jr. about 6 months ago, and he just said, "Listen to this." And I'd always take his recommendations because he has a good ear. And straight away, he blew my mind. He was so good. He has something special. And his show in Belfast that I caught, it was when you see music and you just like, wow, I've never seen this before. I've never like this is different. This is a different. He's so different. He's so unique. He doesn't look like a rock star. But when he goes onto the stage, he completely changes. His energy changes. His voice is so raspy and deep. His story is crazy. He was very close with his father. He was a songwriter in Indiana, and he wrote songs for like the biggest artists in America. Some of the big country artists like Morgan Wallen and all these big guys. The guy that played Dublin there, what do you call him? Zach Bryan, and all these guys.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so he was writing music for a long time, and he wrote this song. Then, which one was it that his father said? "I'm a song," right? And he showed the lyrics to his dad, and he said, "Oh, this is the next one that I've done." And his dad says, "That's your song. You have to sing that one." And he's like, "Ah, no, 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 no." And at the time, he was a boxer, right? And his dad was a boxer, and his dad would have went with the Golden Gloves boxing, but his parents split up, and his mom, I think, had an addiction problem, and his dad took over the family, so he had to park the boxing. But then he put the boys into boxing, and Stephen Wilson and his brother were almost pro boxers. Then that didn't. He stepped back from that. He ended up being a scientist. He was working down in Nashville in a food processing chocolate factory or something in Nashville, and he was working on the science ends of stuff. Then his dad passed away tragically, and he sang the song, and he ended up going on a podcast, the Print Shop podcast, sang the song, and since that he's been touring the world, singing his own
Yeah.
music. He stopped writing for artists and singing his own thing. but he's amazing. If anybody hasn't checked him out,
Yeah,
he does a cover of "Something in the Way" by Nirvana. It's so good as well. It's very good. But that's my
yeah. I listened to the track you sent me on, and I had listened to some of his stuff before on your recommendation. And he's definitely authentic. There's no doubt about that. He's got a fantastic voice, fantastic songwriter. His choice of words and phrasing
yeah,
is phenomenal. And I think what you're saying there about his life story, it really helps to know a little bit of that going in to listen to his back catalogue, because I think it just means so much more when you hear what he's trying to get across.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, he's definitely one to watch. I think you're right. I think he's on the rise for big things. And again, he's not pigeonholed. He's not just a country
no,
artist, even though he has a very distinctive, what I would have thought was like a southern twang, but maybe it's just because maybe it's a Midwest twang.
yeah. No,
But he's not just pigeonholed in that. He can do the little bit of alternative rock and the bit of grunge on that. Holler if you hear me. Is that the one you sent me?
yeah, so good. I love that
Yeah,
one.
it's quite a good song now. I listened to that a few times and have to say very impressed. Production's great.
Production's very good.
Does
Yeah.
he produce it himself, or has he got in a heavyweight?
I don't. I know it was recorded in Nashville, but I'm not sure. His the steel guitarist as well, and
Yeah.
the drummer was unbelievable. Now my mate is a guitarist. I'm not a musician now, and my friend Connor, shout out to Connor, he was blown away. It actually made him pick up the guitar again, listening to him,
Wow.
and he's so impressed at his style, and his tuning is supposedly like open C or something. It's really crazily
Yeah.
tuned guitar. Um, but like we touched on earlier with Neil Young, listening to these albums and then seeing it live, it's just it's just night
Yeah.
and day. It's so good, so
It's
good.
night and day.
So
The
that's my
only thing at our age, when you go to a lot of gigs, it does take it out of you.
Oh, it does. Yeah, like my
That's the
feet were
thing.
broken. I couldn't wait to sit down. But it's so
Yeah.
worth it. It's
It's
so
rewarding.
it is rewarding. And it was the latest show I was ever at. He played till like 11 o'clock.
That is late. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's my recommendation for this month. We'll say go check out Stephen Wilson Jr., Son of Dad.
Very cool. Very cool. Deadly. So yeah, so we've a bit of Glastonbury today, and then the big one next weekend.